But you need to grasp that your husband, more than anything else, believes that your opinion is the most important opinion in the entire world. If you don't get anything else out of this message, write that down, jot it down, do something. Your opinion of your husband is the most important opinion in the whole world. Did you ever wonder why just a little comment can cause such a big argument? I mean, we've all had it, right? You know, your spouse says some little thing, or you say some little thing, and all of a sudden you find yourself like, whoa, where did that reaction come from? And what's going on here? And then, I mean, for the life of you, it was like, I can't figure out what happened here. This is nuts. I mean, I didn't say anything that should be offensive, and we've all been there. And as we look at misbelief number 14 and number 15, I want to give you maybe some insight that'll be really, really helpful. And I want to talk first to you women. And here's a misbelief. Here's something that, again, it's one of those I know goes on in your head. Misbelief number 14 is, my husband's attitude makes no sense to me. He gets so upset when I make even the smallest comment in front of others about something he did wrong. And it's like, okay, we've all been here. You and another couple are going to a restaurant, or maybe you're going to a concert. And it's a really big parking lot, and you are sitting in the front seat with your husband, and you're driving around, and he's surveying the parking lot, doing what men do, looking for a spot. Now, in his mind, there's a lot of issues about this spot that he's not saying. One of the issues is he doesn't want to be too close because this is a fairly new car and he doesn't want to get bumped. Another is he's thinking ahead, thinking, you know what, man, there's a lot of people here. I don't want to be stuck for an hour getting out of here. So he's wandering in places that you don't understand, and first once, and then twice, then like 3 times. Oh, dear, right here. Park here. And he kind of looks at you and kind of glances at the back seat, and then he drives a little bit farther. Didn't you see that one? Look, quick. That other car's going to get it. If you go to the other side and you go turn, right, you know, and then you get a look from him that is a little stronger than if there wasn't another couple, he might say something he'd regret. And then so you keep driving and you know, together, and pretty soon you point out one more time, and then he eventually parks the car. You all get out. You begin walking toward the restaurant or the concert, and being the perceptive wife that you are, you recognize that there might be something wrong. And you turn to him as you're walking because he looks very silent. His body language has stiffened. You sort of reach out to hold his hand, and he makes it evident that he doesn't want to hold your hand. And you're thinking, wait a second, this was supposed to be a date. These are with our really good friends. This is one of our favorite restaurants, or this is a concert we've all been waiting to go to. And what's with him? I mean, and then you can't get it out of him, and he's cold most of the night. And it's finally, you know, you drop the other couple off and you get in the car, and Mr. Stoic is still Mr. Stoic. And you turn to him and you say, you know, you just about ruined our evening. We had this plan for a long time, and, you know, those tickets cost quite a bit of money, and I was so looking forward to being with you. And then you just turned like a cold fish. What's wrong with you? And he's silent. No, I mean it. What's wrong with you? And you finally probe, and finally he tells you. And in your mind, you're thinking, are you kidding me? You mean our whole evening was semi-ruined from my perspective because I was trying to help? I was just trying to help you find a parking spot, and that little comment made you respond like that? And I'm guessing this is not like the only illustration. That's the most benign one I can give you. Teresa is very, very, very good with her mouth, but on occasion, thankfully, she's not malicious, but I would just say she's naive, put it that way. Sometimes she doesn't sort of grasp the social context that we're in, and someone will ask her a question, And her response will be nothing less than throwing me under the bus. And like as a man, I just feel like naked, like how, and I look at her and the only saving grace is like she's unaware she's doing it. If she did it on purpose, I'd be so ticked. But we're in an important meeting, leaders and the board's all together, and you know it's a pivotal time in the ministry and the future, and you know they want to make sure, you know, how's my health and how's my perspective, and you know how are things going in this area and that area, and they ask me, and I give this report. You know, this is going pretty good here, and there's a challenge here, but you know, I think I'm okay. And I know I'm working a lot of hours, but you know, it's just a season, and I'm giving them my bias, but my honest how I think things are. And so the chairman in this case turns to Teresa. It's a closed room. It's an important meeting, and says, "Teresa, tell me, what's your response to what Chip just shared?" And without missing a beat, she just looks right at him and then turns to me and goes, "Oh, I think he believes everything he told you." And I was like, "What?" And so, you know, and it was like, "Oh, I don't think he's sleeping very good." And she begins to share, like, candidly, quite accurately, but it was like, "Honey, you don't understand. Okay, if I wasn't lying, I was putting on a better face. I didn't want him to think that, you know, I was losing it, but you don't say in front of a whole group of leaders, especially this is the board of living on the edge, you say, well, I think he believes what he's saying here." So in her mind, it was, well, I didn't say anything bad about you. I think you really do believe that. I just don't think it's true. And it was like, I understand that, but could we have like an agreement about maybe how you could say that, and maybe how you could phrase that, and maybe a little bit more nuance, like, you know, I think Chip is really sharing how he feels, and this is how he's looking at it. But, you know, these questions are about your concern for him, and maybe how much he's working, and is there too much stress or pressure? And I think you're right to ask those things, and maybe you guys could help him. I mean, something like that, Teresa. Not this. I think he thinks that. And thankfully, I mean, I've experienced that more than a few times. And even in little things, just, you know, so some of you guys don't feel, I guess, too bad. There's times where, you know, I have all adult children now, right? I mean, you know, and their mates. So I've got 4 grown kids, and that's 8 people, and we all, you know, have a big meal, and, you know, whether it's Christmas or a Thanksgiving or a vacation or something, and everyone's there, and, you know, there's a lot of joking that goes on, and I'm the butt of a lot of it. I don't know, maybe it's being a pastor. Maybe it's, you know, a little pond of a church if it's pretty good size. I think my kids got sick of hearing people don't really know me very well. They think, you know, oh, your dad's so wonderful. And so I think they sort of had, you know, I think one of our goals in life is to make sure he stays humble at home. And so they give me a hard time about everything. I mean, if I say something crazy or tell a wrong illustration, I mean, it's like the roast goes on. And so we're all together and we're all talking about something, and it's usually pretty good-natured. And Teresa just goes into this whole story, and then she tells this whole story, and really the whole story is about, I can't fix anything. I'm just inept and I can't fix anything. Well, it's true. And usually it can be a joke. But I remember, I just remember as she shared that, and it was all funny and everyone was laughing. I wasn't laughing. I mean, on the outside, I smiled and I laughed, but it really hurt. And that may be true, but in front of my grown kids, it was like a little dart. It was just like, and what I realized, it made me so sad, because what I realized is I didn't want to be around her. I mean, I love my wife. And then I had to deal with, like, she said what was true in front of my kids and everyone's laughing. I can't fix anything. But so why did that hurt so much? And let me tell you, ladies, this is why it hurts so much. And this is why you have to really guard your mouth. And later, men, I'll talk about why you need to guard your mouth. The lie is, my husband's attitude makes no sense to me. He gets so upset even when the smallest comment in front of others, when he did something wrong. Well, here's the truth, and here's why. Husbands fear futility. the sense that they don't measure up. That's why affirmation, refusing to criticize publicly, and physical intimacy builds up his confidence. I don't care how successful your husband is. I don't care how big he is. I don't care if he's, like built like Atlas and lifts weights. I don't care if he's wealthy and powerful. I don't care what kind of job he has. I don't care if it's construction or he's a genius in computer programming. I'm going to tell you, every single man on the face of the earth fears futility. Do I measure up? And a little comment that communicates, okay, maybe it shouldn't, but what shouldn't be and what is are two different things. Maybe it shouldn't threaten a man for someone to tell him where to park, but the message that a man hears is, do you think I'm an idiot? You think I can't figure out where to park? You don't think I have a brain? I'm not your son. You don't think I've got a few things that I'm thinking about where to park that might be a little bit different than you? I don't need help in this one. I mean, that's where that emotion is. And then when you criticize things that are, I've tried to use the kind of illustrations that seem like they're sort of so mild. How in the world could they produce that? But some of you know, you've said really critical things to a friend about your husband and it gets back to him. You've said very critical things that make him feel like he doesn't measure up. In fact, you've said them to him. And I wish it weren't true, but you need to grasp that your husband, more than anything else, believes that your opinion is the most important opinion in the entire world. If you don't get anything else out of this message, write that down, jot it down, do something. Your opinion of your husband is the most important opinion in the whole world. I happen to do a job where I'm in front of lots of people, at times thousands of people. And I'll go to airports and be picking up my bag and someone will walk, oh, I recognize that voice. Are you Chip? Yeah, I listen to Living on the Edge, blah, blah, blah. After a service, I want to tell you that's the best message I've ever heard in my whole life, And what I know is it's not the best message. What I know is I've been used by God. And you know what I've learned over the years is I just thank you, Lord. I want to be your PVC pipe that your grace can flow through. And in my wife's experience, she goes, you get so much praise. How in the world do you handle that? And I said, by and large, I appreciate, they're really trying to say thanks to God, but they need to see someone where God has skin on. And I happen to be, the person, and it's a stewardship, and I need to listen and sort of deflect and make sure that, hey, thanks, I was glad to be a part of God's work in your life. And but honey, none of them know me. They don't know me. I mean, maybe I said or did something that helped them, but that's what I did. That's not me. And when my wife tells me, Chip, I've heard you speak a lot of times. Wow. I saw God's power. I know I watched, you were up the wee hours of the morning. Man, you were really preparing. I've seen you pray. I know how much pressure you felt and that message, the way it could have gone, because it's very controversial what you handled. Chip, I'm really proud of you. That, ladies, is worth 100,000 comments from people all over the world that I don't know. And so I just want to encourage you that words of affirmation, and especially if your husband's lost his job, if he's going through a rough time, if he's doubting himself, can I be so bold to say, you need to give words of affirmation? And, I know this is a family program, but you initiating making love with him will tell him more about how he's loved and affirmed and cared for. My wife has jokingly said, and I don't have permission to say this, so honey, I hope you don't listen to this program, but sometimes she'll say, I'm going through a really, really hard time, and we'll make love, and she'll turn to me and say, well, I guess the whole world's all better. And I'll say, well, it's a lot better than it was before. And certainly the act of intimacy isn't important, but it's more, it's way more the scripture, being naked and unashamed, being valued just for who you are. You bring nothing to the table. And someone in this world loves you and loves you deeply. And what I would be very quick to give you is, this is the verse. It's Philippians 2, 3, and 4. And it's a verse worth memorizing. Do nothing from selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. And women are not the only ones, gentlemen, who say insensitive things and that are clueless about why a certain word could cause such wounds and such damage and such arguments. Let me give you some of the private thoughts of men. Ladies, you might be interested in this. Most men will be nodding their head right now if you happen to be jogging somewhere listening to me, or maybe watching this on video at times. Here's the misbelief. My wife's attitude makes no sense to me. If I joke about her gaining a little weight, or I take notice even slightly of another woman, she comes unglued. I don't get it. I mean, I was just joking. You know, I just said, hey, hon, looks like you put on a couple pounds. And man, she shut down. Or, you know, we're out and doing stuff, and, you know, we're just having fun, and she decides she's going to order ice cream, and I make a little comment, hey, let's just remember, first on the lips, then on the hips, you know. I don't get it. What? Well, I mean, I'm just joking. Yeah? Really? Or are you just being passive aggressive? Or let's say a beautiful woman, you're in a restaurant and a beautiful woman walks by. And you know, you're human, we're all human. God made people very beautiful, and maybe this person happens to have a very lovely figure, and there's some women with lovely figures decide not to put much on to cover it. And being a human and being a man, you certainly will be some level of eye-catching, and you look. That's one thing. It's the glue of your eyes as that occurs, and your wife is like, what's going on? What is going on? In fact, if you want to know, gentlemen, why porn is so devastating for a wife to discover, or for some of you that are dating, if you discover it about your boyfriend, is porn gets at to the heart of why all these things I'm talking about is painful, devastating, can shut a woman down and make her feel very, very unloved. The misbelief is my wife's attitude makes no sense to me when I joke about gaining a little weight, or I take even a little notice of other women. She comes unglued. Here's the truth. Women fear abandonment, of losing the relationship. That's why saying, I love you, being a good listener, and showing affection in public build up her sense of belonging. It's the same verse. It's Philippians 2, 3, and 4. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interests of others. Just as you feel like, I don't measure up, you know, what if I don't make it? You know, am I really a man? Women, by and large, fear, are you going to leave me? Are you going to abandon me? Am I not good enough? Am I not good enough so that you have to stare in front of a screen of make-believe people who have their bodies shot up with stuff and pretend worlds? Am I not good enough that your attention goes to another woman? Do you love me, or just, you know, if my body isn't what it used to be, so you really don't love me, you just love me for how I looked? That's what's going through her mind. That's why that little comment is not a little comment. And that's why, men, you need to communicate that you love her. And I know I've heard all the jokes like, I told her I love her when we got married, and, you know, she ought to remember that. I have learned, and I've gone into training, I probably tell my wife that I love her multiple times a day. I'm sure teaching this right now has been an encouragement, because as most of you know, I didn't get these misbeliefs out of a book somewhere. It wasn't like, hey, Chip, here's a great book on misbeliefs about marriage and relationships. Why don't you write those down and come up with some messages? I got all these misbeliefs from my own personal experience, from the study of God's Word, and from countless hours of meeting with men and women who could have had great relationships, who actually squandered them because they started believing lies like, when the right person comes into my life, then everything's going to be okay. If my husband would only do this, then everything would be great. If my wife would only do this, then everything would be great. The fact of the matter is that women fear abandonment, and we need to communicate, I love you. I don't love you just for the way you look. I don't love you for what you bring. I don't love you just for what you do. I love you. I am for you. And by the way, that can be very, very generic, so you need to get it specific. I love you because of the way you're faithful to me and the way that you listen. I love you because I watch how you treat our children. I love you because every time we're around, in my case, women that are hurting and no one cares about, I see the love of Christ come through you into their lives. I love you because you remind me that we're all desperate, and someday I would love to learn to pray the way that you pray. I love you because you inspire me to walk with God. I love you, sometimes not as much as I'd like to, when you are so about integrity, and little tiny things, and I'm thinking you're being a little legalistic. And the fact of the matter is, maybe I was being a little bit loose. Your wives so desperately need to hear that kind of affirmation. And then you need to be, are you ready? I mean, all the research is in. A woman likely feels more loved when you do this one thing than almost any other thing. And it's what we as men are no good at, by and large. It's called listening. When you come home, you need to stop in the driveway or get off the train or get off the bus or get off the bike. Whatever you do, you get home. For those of us that work outside our home, or if you work inside the home, then shut down your computer and move from another room and take a lap or two around the house and then say, okay, I'm entering a new world. And whether you get home at the same time, but when she enters, my first 15 minutes need to be about, how was your day? How are you doing? What was the biggest challenge you had? Tell me a little bit more about that. And you know, maybe they're tired and there's just a word, but listen. And when you listen, it can't be like, yeah, honey, tell me about that, and the TV's on over here, or you know, you've got a magazine or a book up. No, tell me. When you listen, you need to lean forward, body language, I'm engaged. It needs to be eye contact. I really want to hear what you're saying, and then don't fix her. Don't, oh, well, gosh, if you were to get up earlier, that wouldn't happen. Or, well, I think you should tell your boss that. Well, if I was you, I wouldn't put up with that from your supervisor. Hey, did you report that to HR? She doesn't want to hear that. She doesn't need to hear that. All that may be true. Here's what she needs. I love you. I'm for you. I want to listen about your day. And there may be a time to address some things. But your wife needs to know that she's precious, that she's beautiful. And I don't mean this as manipulation. I think my wife's beautiful. I was looking at a picture just before I came in, and I was rearranging some things, and it was a picture of my wife about 20 years ago when my daughter, gosh, at least 20 years ago, my daughter was late teens. And I saw the picture of the three of us, and I just looked at it, I thought, she's gorgeous. I mean, she's gorgeous. Now, she's like every other woman 20, 25 years later from that picture. She's still gorgeous. But she's a gorgeous person for her decade, not a gorgeous person like when she was 35 and 40. It's different. And she needs to know when her figure's the way she wanted it to be, and before she had children, and before life came on, that she's gorgeous. And she needs to hear you say and believe, you're beautiful. You look really good in that dress. That's a lot better than, did you get some new jeans? I think they're too tight. Guys, you say the stupidest, dumbest things. Now, by the way, can I say, both directions for men and for women. There may be some times where you need to say, and by the way, not just when you get home, but after, you've thought about things and you realize, I'm concerned about your health. Could we have a conversation about how much you're working? Or I'm concerned about your health. I can tell you're down and you don't like yourself. And when you gain, 5, 10, 15 pounds, I know you don't like yourself right now. I want you to know I love you, but what's the game plan? How could I be of help, or what do you need to do? Because this isn't a direction. So don't hear that you don't ever address things. What I'm saying is you need to understand that a little comment, a little joke, a little insensitivity from a wife to a husband or from a husband to a wife can be devastating. And it can produce layers of resentment. And I will tell you, the enemy is glad to break up your relationship, even if it takes 10 years. But little resentments that don't get addressed, they just get filed, and then they build up. And then after that becomes bitterness. And after that is you see them through a different lens, and it's a negative one. And that path is devastating. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you want your marriage to change, because in our next time together, I'm going to go a little bit different direction. We're going to look at the foundation. But you want your marriage to change. You really want a great marriage that will produce a great family. Then here's the deal. You need to get these cards. And by the way, I don't want you just to, don't even try to memorize them. What I want you to do is I want you to get them and put them next to your bedside. And then what I want you to do is 3, maybe 4 cards at the most. When you get up, sit up in bed, don't turn on your phone, don't check the Wall Street Journal, don't do anything, unless you have to go to the restroom, of course. And then I want you just to take a few minutes and read them out loud. If your mate's not up, just whisper them. 2 or 3 of these cards. Here's the misbelief, here's the truth, here's the verse. And then put them under the stack and leave them there. Before you go to bed, you do the same thing. I'm going to tell you something, because I've been doing this for decades. You read that over and over and over and over and over, and that misbelief, and you say the word stop out loud, and then you flip the card over, and this is the truth, and here's the passage. You will unconsciously find yourself doing things that you never did before. I unconsciously now walk by the trash can and realize it's full. I never even saw it before, and I take it out. I walk into the room when she's done all the laundry, and my mind goes to, she will feel affirmed and loved if I put it away right now. So that's when and that's how I did it. I never did that before. Something comes out of my mouth that encourages her. Why? Because I have gone into training so that these attitudes and these responses are the ones I know God wants for me, the ones I want. But just reading a book or trying hard will not change very much. You have to renew your mind. If you want a great marriage, you have to fight for it.